let's get right into it. Let's look at this from a little different vantage point. We have roughly a $22 trillion economy. According to Larry, and we all know Larry very well, he said that if you look at the congressional package passed, you look at what the Fed's doing, and you think leverage, that altogether we're looking at anywhere from $6 to $10 trillion of leverage that can be put in the economy, a $22 trillion economy. Maybe we stand in place for a month. I don't know. I know I'm looking at bananas to apples there, but it certainly seems like that should be a good amount.
Well, it's certainly a good amount. It's not so much the stimulus. I think what we really need right now is liquidity, and I'm very encouraged because I think the nature of the legislation, pretty much everything Congress is doing, and fortunately the administration is doing as well, is to provide liquidity during this short run period. So it's not so much the magnitude, whether we're talking about 6 trillion, 10 trillion. What we care about most
but
is that we
if we're going to stand in place, you've said standing in place is what we need to do. I couldn't agree with you more. The Fed can't make the virus go away. Congress can't make the virus go away. But a $22 trillion economy with 6 to 10 trillion to stand in place, if it lasts, 4 to 6 weeks, it just seems common sense that number should really help.
Well, it's certainly going to help. And in fact, that's the key thing, is that what we need to do is to keep these businesses going during that period of time. The question on, what's the right number? We may find that the number that we have right now is not enough. We may have to go back and go get something later. But the important point is that the legislation addressed the key parts of the economy that need the help. One, small businesses, most important small businesses, because small businesses don't have the kind of access to liquidity that the larger businesses have. So that's key. We want those businesses back up and running as soon as this thing lets up. Second is the unemployment compensation, the help for individuals. We really need to keep all the individuals going during this period. We can't let that sink it as well. And then third, the issue of specific industries. Right now, we know it's travel, it's leisure and hospitality, it's retailing. Those industries are getting hurt. So all of the things that have been addressed are actually quite encouraging.
And the other notion is that we most likely, when the coronavirus exits, many don't think we can come back as quickly as the demand crash caused the downside. I disagree. I think whether you look at post-prohibition, all the things that Americans were forced to hold in place, once they end, seems like demand surges. Listen, I'm not trying to be overly optimistic, but I could certainly see a demand returning picture that would soak up all the lost demand plus more just because of the quotient of holding back for so long.
I agree with you.
This is America. We like to get out and do things.
All right. I agree with you, Rick. I'm an optimist. And I'll tell you, the way I think about it is this. The next quarter is going to be a terrible quarter. We know that. It has to be simply because if you look at retail, leisure and hospitality, transportation, that's already, good 20-25% of the economy right there. They're going to get killed. So the issue is what happens during this quarter. We could see a collapse of GDP by 10 to 20%. But I think I'm with you in terms of the recovery rate. As long as things stabilize, and again, it depends on not just the progression of the disease, much of it has to do with the progression of our ability to test people, because getting people back to work depends more than anything on having tests up and running. That's the protocol that we need. But let's say that we do get that. Then what will happen is second quarter, 2 quarters from now, we ought to have zero growth, because we should suffer most of the decline in this quarter and then flatten out. And then I would expect recovery to start 3 quarters out, possibly getting close to where we are now within 4 to 5 quarters from now. So I'm with you. I think this is going to be a pretty sharp V. I do think we're going to come back. There's no fundamental reason why we can't. So I'm optimistic. It's tough to be optimistic in these times. This is not a great period for us, but I'm with you on that.
I understand you always have to over-prepare. You have to worry about the human factor. I get all that. But in the final analysis, call me crazy, I think all the equity indices are going to be in positive territory by the end of the year.